The fundamental shift that's required for a more holistic approach to acne is to move away from the question, what can I take to fix my skin? And instead ask, what am I doing that could be messing up my skin? And this is not about blame. It's about empowerment. Your body's natural default setting is good health and clear skin. Yes, some people are more genetically predisposed to acne. That's a fact. But acne is not a genetic condition. It's an environmental condition. So the focus needs to be on creating an anti-inflammatory environment in and on your body. I'm Dr. Robynne Chutkan, gastroenterologist, microbiome expert, and author, and I am here to help you find gut bliss. On today's show, acne can be a very anxiety-provoking condition, not because we're vain, but because our face is what we present to the world, and it's also what we see reflected back at us in the mirror. And when our skin looks unhappy, it can make us unhappy. Why? Because acne is more than just the presence of pimples. It's a sign of systemic inflammation. In last week's episode, I talked about the gut-skin axis, and I explained how inflammation in your gut can show up on your skin. In this episode, I'm going to focus on acne, and I'm going to provide you with some gut-based solutions that can clear up your skin and create a healthier gut. But first, let's talk about the three main factors that lead to acne. Number one, overproduction of sebum. Sebum is part of the lipid layer of fatty molecules I talked about in last week's episode that helps to keep your skin moist and lubricated, and it also protects your skin from harmful pathogens. Number two, obstruction of the oil glands in your skin. These are sometimes referred to as sebaceous glands, and they connect to your hair follicles. The excess sebum mixes with dead skin cells to form a plug in the follicle that turns into a pimple. And number three, inflammation caused by overgrowth of certain bacteria on the skin, including a bacteria called Propionibacterium acnes, or P. acnes for short. And I want to remind you that just like in your gut, when we see overgrowth of yeast species like Candida and other problematic bacteria, it's not the Candida or the bad bacteria in the gut that's a problem. It's a fact that there are not sufficient quantities of healthy bacteria to crowd them out. And that's exactly what's going on the skin. Overgrowth of P. acnes is a direct result of undergrowth of some of the healthier skin species, like Staph epidermidis. So it's this imbalance of microbes on your skin, the same kind of imbalance we see in the gut with dysbiosis. And what causes that imbalance on the skin? Antibiotics, harsh cleansing products that damage the skin's epithelial layer, and a poor diet. And what causes that imbalance in the gut? Antibiotics, medications like NSAIDs that damage the gut's epithelial lining, and a poor diet. You feeling me here with the similarities? And to successfully treat these problems, the problem of gut dysbiosis and the problem of skin dysbiosis, you have to pay attention to these root causes. The Gut Bliss podcast is brought to you by VisBiome, my first and quite frankly, my only choice for a probiotic. Whether you're dealing with irritable bowel syndrome or just looking to restore your gut health, VisBiome can help. It's a medical food for the dietary management of IBS and gut inflammation. Backed by science and clinically vetted by thousands of my own patients. Find your gut bliss with VisBiome. Go to visbiome.com/gutbliss and use discount code GUTBLISS at checkout. There are two additional ways we know that bacterial imbalance in the gut, what we call dysbiosis, can contribute to acne. One way is that certain bacteria in the gut can increase the production of hormones that ramp up the production of sebum in the skin. The second mechanism is that dysbiosis in the gut interferes with your body's ability to absorb nutrients, things like chromium, B-complex vitamins, selenium, zinc. These are all essential nutrients for healthy skin. And here's the thing. Supplements are not the answer to this problem because if your gut microbiome is disrupted, you're not going to absorb the nutrients in the supplements any better than you would absorb the nutrients from the food. So just taking a supplement does not overcome this issue of an imbalanced, dysbiotic gut that is not absorbing things properly. You've got to fix that problem. Disruption of your gut microbiome also affects the permeability of your gut lining, and I talked about this in last week's episode. It leads to what is commonly referred to as leaky gut. And if you add in a highly processed diet full of preservatives and emulsifiers that damage your gut lining and a lack of nutrient-rich food, then now you have an ideal situation for inflammation to occur. Toxic substances and waste matter that would normally be excreted out through your gut in the stool can now translocate through your compromised gut lining and trigger an inflammatory response elsewhere in the body, like on your skin. And that's why we so often see acne in teenagers, because the history is often a lot of antibiotics in childhood. They're now eating a highly processed diet, and they're going through hormonal changes. During puberty, the sebum can start to thicken, and it mixes with these sort of problematic imbalanced bacteria that have been cultivated through their heavy antibiotic use in the past when they were younger, plus the suboptimal diet that we see teens are often eating. My own daughter received over 20 courses of antibiotics before she was 2 years old. And like many teenagers, she struggled with her skin as she went through puberty. And many well-meaning dermatologists tried to tell me that antibiotics were the solution. But I knew that antibiotics were actually part of the problem. They were not the solution. And there was no way I was going to expose her to more damage in order to achieve a short-sighted fix. I had firsthand witnessed so many of my patients go down that road of increasingly potent antibiotics for acne, and I'd simultaneously watch their acne relapse over and over again as the bacteria on their skin became more and more resistant to the various antibiotics, and their skin microbiome became even more imbalanced. And I also knew that many of the serious health problems they were dealing with, the health problems I was treating them for, were related to that excessive antibiotic use. Treating acne with antibiotics is like treating SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which is a form of gut dysbiosis. It's like treating that with antibiotics. You see initial improvement because you suppress a lot of the bacteria, but as soon as things start to repopulate, the microbiome comes back even more imbalanced, and the SIBO symptoms come back, and sometimes they come back even worse. And that is why antibiotics do not cure acne. They just temporarily suppress it. And in the process, they create more resistant and even more pathogenic bacteria. Given what we know about the risks of antibiotics in young people, and I'm talking about risks like autoimmune disease, diagnoses like Crohn's and ulcerative colitis, neurocognitive problems, obesity, allergies, it is unacceptable that dermatologists are still prescribing antibiotics for acne. Just because something works does not mean it is a good idea. When we think about something like the class action lawsuit against Accutane, there was a huge lawsuit years ago claiming that Accutane caused colitis. And Accutane is a popular acne drug that is a vitamin A derivative. It's now sold as isotretinoin, is a form of this vitamin A derivative. And the claim was that it caused colitis. But what was really interesting was almost all of those patients were also on antibiotics before taking the Accutane, because the prescribing guidelines said that you had to have failed antibiotics before you could take that drug. And we know that there is a clear link between antibiotics early in life and the development of diseases like colitis. If this sounds kind of like a rant, it is, because I can help you overcome damage to your GI tract from a week of antibiotics or even a month. But the patients I see with the absolute worst GI issues, not to mention other problems like the autoimmune diseases I mentioned, the most messed up GI tracts are in the patients who have been taking prolonged antibiotics for years for conditions like acne. And I believe that if somebody had properly informed those young people about the downstream side effects and the long-term risk, there is no way they would have agreed to take years of antibiotics. There is no highly selective antibiotic that is just going to kill off the problematic skin bacteria, the P. acnes, and not going to damage the staph epidermidis. Doxycycline, which is an antibiotic that is commonly used to treat acne, is absolutely ruinous to the gut. And I know all my derm friends are rolling their eyes as I tell you this, but the reality is that all of these systems in our body are connected. And you can't do something to the skin and not consider what it is doing to the rest of the body. If you suffer from acne, you are probably spending a lot of time thinking about what products to use to clean your skin. But I want to remind you that acne is not caused by dirt or by dirty skin. Overproduction of sebum is a contributing factor. But what I want you to do here is to ask yourself, why is your skin overproducing sebum? It's because it's trying to protect itself. Probably because you are drying it out with products or peels or lathering agents like sodium lauryl sulfate that are disrupting your skin's protective barrier. We see the same thing in the gut, where an irritated gut will start overproducing mucus to try and protect itself, and we will see that mucus in the stool. So the first thing I tell my patients who are suffering from acne is to stop washing their face with these cleansers. And there are lots of other tips that I give them. Spray some mineral water like Evian or Avene on a cotton pad, gently wipe their skin. There is so much information to discuss about a gut-based approach to skin conditions. I've included some helpful tips below in the takeaways, but I have also created the Gut Bliss Guide to Healthy Skin. This is a comprehensive resource for acne, rosacea, eczema, and psoriasis that goes into all the details. What products to use and which ones to avoid, what food to eat and what you should stay away from, a list of medications that can mess up your skin and gut, and a list of medications that are safe to use and actually effective for conditions like acne, eczema, and rosacea. Information on how to gently cleanse your skin to remove makeup or sweat without disrupting your skin's lipid layer, its bacterial composition, its pH, or its epithelial lining. And I've also included some exciting new data about herbal remedies like Rehmannia glutinosa leaf extract that seem to be very promising and effective for acne. These are all tools that I have used successfully in my patients to help them clear up their skin. So again, you can find the Gut Bliss Guide to Healthy Skin at gutbliss.com under Gut Guides. In the meantime, I want to leave you with some takeaways for how to incorporate a more gut-based approach to your acne. And some of these things will be obvious, but I still want to remind you, and some of them may be less obvious. So number one, there is a very strong connection between what you're putting into your body and what is coming out of your body. So garbage in, garbage out. And that garbage is going to show up on your skin as acne. I want you to avoid ultra-processed packaged foods with a list of chemical ingredients. If you have never heard of the ingredient and you do not have it in your pantry at home, you should not be ingesting it. Those substances can disrupt your gut lining and allow toxins and other inflammatory substances to penetrate through your gut and cause inflammation on your skin. The reality is most of us can get away with a little bit of junk food. I have been known to eat a bag of Cheetos, but you have to try and make sure that ultra-processed foods constitute less than 10% of your diet. What should you be eating instead? Focus on unprocessed food like fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, whole grains, lean animal protein if you're a meat eater. Lots more details on the diet, sort of anti-acne diet in that Gut Bliss Guide to Healthy Skin. Number two, cow's milk is a strong trigger for acne in most people, especially teenagers, where there's a lot of hormone activation. But you also have to be careful with non-dairy plant milks because those often contain emulsifiers and gums, things like lecithin and carrageenan and xanthan gum and guar gum, and those things are also terrible for your gut. Number three, beware of foods that claim to be healthy but have lots of added sugar and chemical ingredients. So that's things like granola bars and probiotic drinks and enhanced water. I want you to ignore the marketing claims on the front of the label, and I want you to read the actual ingredients that are hidden on the back of the label in very small print, sometimes under a flap. Here is what one of the most popular vitamin waters on the market says it can do for you. I'm reading from the label. with 2.5 times the antioxidants to help combat free radicals, more nutrients, electrolytes, and other good stuff. End quotation. But here is what that vitamin water actually contains. Crystalline fructose, calcium pantothenate, pyridoxine hydrochloride, sodium selenate, magnesium and calcium lactates, potassium phosphate, cane sugar, citric acid, acacia gum, natural flavors, fruit and vegetable juices for color. None of those ingredients sound particular health promoting to me, and most of them can be found in the chemistry lab, not in my pantry. Number 4, a green smoothie every morning provides tons of nutrients and fiber to feed your gut microbes and help keep your gut lining healthy and intact. It's like medicine for your skin. You do not have to love it, just suck it down. Just suck down a big glass. I actually have been drinking it for so long now that I actually do love it. But more importantly, I love how it makes me feel, and quite frankly, I love how it helps my skin. You can find my Gut Bliss Green Smoothie recipe guide in the Gut Bliss Guide to Healthy Skin at gutbliss.com under Gut Guides. Number 5, having trouble getting your teenager to eat better? Here's a tip. Focus less on the bad stuff they're eating and more on what they're missing. And you can put as much fruit as you need to into that green smoothie to make it taste good to them. The fruit is absolutely fine. I want you to get them to try and give up one bad habit. Soda is generally at the top of the list for what bad habit you should try and get them to give up. And when I say soda, I also mean sports drinks and energy drinks and high sugar juice drinks and anything with artificial sweeteners. Artificial sweeteners mess up your microbiome. So if you can get them to give up those processed drinks and substitute just some plain water, or they can drink fizzy water, carbonated water instead, as long as it's not carbonated water plus chemicals. If you can get them to do that, that is a huge step. Even if they're having pizza, which is not great for their skin, see if you can get them to have a small side salad with it. Little by little, try to replace some of the bad stuff with better stuff. But don't harp on what they're doing wrong. Emphasize what they're doing right. Wow, you ate an apple and some broccoli today. That is awesome. Number 6, this last one is so basic, but the best health advice is usually pretty basic. I want you to remember that you need to drink at least half your body weight in ounces of water every day to help flush out all the toxins in your gut and on your skin. So if you weigh 150 pounds, that's at least 75 ounces of just plain water. Remember, both your gut and your skin are organs of excretion, and water is the best way to eliminate harmful substances from your body. So that's it for this edition of the Gut Bliss podcast on a gut-focused approach to acne. Coming up next time on the Gut Bliss podcast, more on the gut-skin connection with eczema, rosacea, and psoriasis. Go to gutbliss.com for my free 7-day microbiome reboot course. If you like what you're hearing, drop a review and hit that subscribe button. And remember, dirt, sweat, vegetables, the best prescription for a healthy gut.
The information presented in this show is not meant to be medical advice. Consult your doctor before making any decisions about your health. The patients discussed are real people, but names and identifying features have been changed to protect their privacy.